I'm Rick Wade, Senior Vice President of the United States Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business organization. And today we're talking about the business of sports and entertainment, and I am delighted to be joined by the President of Monumental Basketball, Michael Winger. Michael, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I start these conversations out first by asking a really simple question. Who is Michael Winger?
Michael Winger is an incredibly lucky human being, first and foremost. Very blessed to be a husband, a father of four, and obviously very fortunate to be involved in professional sports. I've been in the NBA my entire professional career, so I am almost 46 now. I joined the league about 21 years ago, and prior to that I was in law school, then undergrad. I pinch myself pretty regularly that a kid from a small town west of Cleveland, Ohio, is not only in professional sports, but helping to manage, a couple of teams. And gratitude is really the only thing that I can use to describe sort of how I feel and what's at the core of who I am. But yeah, so I'm a dad. I'm evidently a leader of a basketball program, and we're trying to do great things.
Yeah. Well, you missed one thing that we have in common, the bald head. So bald-headed brothers got to stick together, Mike.
I'm very bald. Yeah, I'm very bald, since about 25 years old.
Listen, tell us about Monumental Sports and Enterprise, the entire enterprise. I'm intrigued. I was just out in L.A. And heard the owner talk about the big investments you're making and across your enterprise here in D.C. Yep. Tell us a bit about Monumental.
Sure. So the company it's a big company. And not only are we involved with live sport teams, we have venues, we have a network, and we're growing. We are, the way that Ted and Zach like to describe it is there's a platform. And if they build the platform, then they can put various different entities atop this platform, and all of these entities ought to be able to share the services, lean on each other, and grow. And so we are a regional sports and entertainment business. We are growing, we're very valuable as a company, and we continue to look for ways to pioneer regional sports and entertainment, but then also global sports and entertainment.
And so in your role, so you oversee operations for the Wizards, the Mystics, Capital City Go-Go, all of these organizations, which means, I'm assuming, you deal with everything from roster planning to player acquisition and salary caps, contract negotiations, all of that. How do you, let's say Wizards, how do you balance the rebuilding process of the Wizards with the whole desire and goal to create a competitive product on the floor every night?
Sure. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the reason that I can do these things is because with the Wizards and the Mystics, we have two extraordinarily talented, passionate, and hardworking general managers. With the Wizards, it's Will Dawkins. With the Mystics, it's Jamila Weidman. And I lean on them a lot to get things done on a day-to-day basis, on a season-to-season basis. They're tremendous. How do we balance managing with also trying to put a competitive product on the floor? The answer is the best we can. I think that there is no necessarily singular program to build a franchise into a perennial contender. Some teams do it because they got lucky in the draft. Other teams do it because they were able to strike gold in free agency. Some did it because they developed a couple of young players who maybe didn't necessarily have the star power as rookies or second-year players, but they developed into stars. And so we're taking a slow path, and part of that slow path requires a lot of fan patience, a lot of partner patience, investor patience. That's been the hard part, because I think sort of implied in the question is our job is to put a competitive, enjoyable product out on the floor, and that's what people want to see. And there's a lot of competition in the league, both in a basketball game. There's 30 teams, so we're playing against 29 of them throughout the course of the season. But those 29 teams are also battling for the exact same athletes all the time. And there's just not enough, call it, superstar level talent around the world to distribute evenly among these teams. And so you're doing the best you can to create them via the draft, free agency, trade. And so it's slow.
Yeah. So when we think about the I guess the biggest challenge of building a championship caliber team in today's NBA is talent. Is that the biggest challenge? How do you think about the most challenging
That's a great question.
aspect?
I don't know that you could have a championship contending team with great talent and a terrible culture, nor do I think you could have a perennial contender with a great culture and subpar talent. I think that you have to have both.
Sure.
And you can create the culture somewhat independently of the talent. And so what we're trying to do right now is do both at the same time. And so we came here a little over 2 years ago. We tried to really re-identify who we want to be as an organization on both teams, the Wizards and the Mystics. Invest in our culture, invest in our infrastructure, level up our performance off the court, whether it's in the medical space, the PR space, the strategy space, the management space. So we're enhancing our culture because the culture is probably what's going to help some of these young athletes become the best versions of themselves. However, whatever their ceilings are, the culture will help them reach it. Now they have to get there, and it's our job to make sure that they can get there.
Sure. You know, your experience, some 20 years across the NBA landscape. You were at the Cavaliers, the Thunder, and Clippers. How has all of that collectively helped to shape your approach to building a team? I mean, imagine you have a lot of experience to draw on from so many different.
Sure. I've been incredibly fortunate to have tremendous ownership everywhere I've been, and that has given me the ability to sort of peek behind the curtain a little bit on how to run a business, how to appeal to the fans, how to make sure that the company as a whole is succeeding financially, in addition to just on and off the basketball court. In addition, I've been around extraordinary basketball talent. In Cleveland, I had the pleasure of being with LeBron James. In Oklahoma City, I had the pleasure of being with Russell and Kevin. In LA, we had Kawhi and Paul. And so I've been around extraordinary talent and seeing what it takes to get to that level. And so I think being able to understand some of the challenges, not all of the challenges that good ownership goes through, understanding what it takes to appeal to and raise young elite athletes. And then also, in many ways, sort of how to reset an organization. We had to reset the organization in Cleveland in 2005. We began resetting the organization in Oklahoma City in about 2016. We reset the organization in LA in about 2017. And so we're doing that same thing here now. And I'm just fortunate that I get to bring all of those experiences and that knowledge with me to share with our staff, to share with Ted, to share with Zach, to share with our business folks, but then also to share with our athletes so that they understand a lot of the guys that we have now, their very first NBA experience were in the W. Their very first WNBA experience has been with us.
Right.
And so they don't have the benefit of those other experiences. I can share those experiences, at least verbally.
Right. You know, I have the honor of serving on the board of directors of USA Track and Field, and I'll tell you, technology is at the forefront every day. And I'd be curious about how you think about the role of AI, analytics, sports science. How's that evolving in sports and basketball? How are you leveraging technology?
It starts with R&D. And the sort of the upside of pro sport is you always know that there is a space for it. And whether it's AI, whether it's player tracking technology, data and analytics, there's 100% always a space for it. You also want to be one of the pioneers of that. You want to be first, but these things are incredibly expensive and they are incredibly labor intensive. And so you have to pick and choose where you're putting your resources, your manpower resources, your financial resources into a particular technology, because the one you choose might not work. The second choice you make may not work. The third choice you make may not work. So you want to make sure you're choosing the right one at the right time, that you have the ability internally to leverage it. But then also, like, how is it going to make you better as a competitor? Is it going to help you choose players better? Is it going to help you defend a pick and roll better? Is it going to help you rehab an athlete better? You sort of have to identify which of those avenues you want to tackle first and then go at it. And so for us, we have we've blended it. And so we have a very robust, very competent strategy and analytics team, and they rely heavily on technology, data and analytics in particular. We rely on the player tracking technology a lot to identify on-court performance metrics, how to teach certain things, but then also how to evaluate talent. The AI piece, I think that is, to the extent that we can harness that, what's what I'm looking for? To the extent that we can harness that resourcefully, I think that it will be a game changer for us in terms of our efficiency. A lot of times we get together as a group and we talk about things. The output of those conversations might be really rich, and a great decision may come from that. Mm-hmm. But you have 10, 11, 15 people in a meeting, and meetings, by and large, are inefficient. Because somebody may have something great to say, but they have to wait their turn to say it.
Sure.
And I think AI is going to help us with efficiency and decision making. And then from a fan experience, I think that AI, player tracking technology, I can imagine a world where, and I'll speak maybe about football, but I can imagine a world where I can turn on my television and every athlete on the field has some kind of an embedded camera in the helmet system. Mm-hmm. And I want to see the quarterback cam, and I want to see the wide receiver cam. And I have one side of my screen that's showing me what the receiver is seeing, and on the other side of the screen, I'm watching some kind of an overlay of the receiver's route that he's running, while at the same time on the left side seeing what he's seeing. And I think all of those will come together to enhance the fan experience in their consumption of professional sports.
That's interesting, but also speaking of fan experience, I mean, where the athletes plays matters. Mm-hmm. You prior to Monumental, I mean, you helped to develop probably one of the most exclusive and performance-focused basketball arenas ever, right? Mm-hmm. The Intuit Dome. Mm-hmm. What does the arena look like of the future? I mean, for Monumental, that you think about basketball?
I think it'll be very tech-driven. Yeah. I do think that there is no substitute for live sport. Being in the environment, being in the arena, being at the at the field, at the stadium, whatever the case may be, I don't think there's a substitute for that. It brings a camaraderie, it brings a togetherness. In many ways, you get to check your personality quirks at the door. You get to check your political preferences at the door, because the people that you're sitting with are all cheering for the Mystics. They're all cheering for the Wizards. That's the commonality in that moment. And I think that the arena will probably technologically try to harness those commonalities in those moments, whether it's by virtue of enhancing the play on the court. You go to these tech summits and you'll see things like a glass court, and a glass court with all this embedded technology to help you track an athlete, to help illustrate what's happening on the court. I think those are the types of things that will be extremely attractive for the fan in an arena. And I think that as arenas continue to evolve, they will probably still do everything they can to enhance the fan experience, whether it's staying in the seat. So example, Intuit Dome. Steve was very adamant that he has a lot of bathrooms because he doesn't want lines. In addition, you can walk into any market in the arena, and you don't have to go through the friction of using a credit card or an ID. You walk in, grab your product, and you leave. We have that at our arena. And so minimizing the friction to keep fans in seats, I think that will be one of the continued themes that we see in these arenas. But then also, to your point, harnessing technology, and whether that's a scoreboard, the court, the technology that's available in a fan seat, how you're necessarily interpreting the game with your eyeballs as you're watching the court, but you have your phone and you're watching data on the phone. You're watching, real-time live information on your phone about what's happening here. And I could see that type of stuff bleeding into the bench, bleeding into the locker room, bleeding into the huddles, that sort of thing.
Yeah. There are a lot of issues we could talk about, like sports betting, the streaming, which is a game changer for them. But any quick thoughts on either one of those? I mean, media, streaming, sports betting?
Streaming in particular, and I know that we're going to get into this a little bit later as well, but the demand for live sports is not slowing down, and it is accelerating. There's a package of products, there's a package of experiences that you can tack onto the live event itself. And what we're starting to do at Monumental, and Ted and Zach in particular, is treating the company, treating sport as more of a SaaS product, a sport as a service. And okay, so there's the once a night live event that 20,000 people can come watch, or millions can watch on the television. But there's a package of goods, there's a package of products and experiences and services that we can provide that all piggyback that live event, or just piggyback the organization, in this case the Wizards or the Mystics, putting on the live event. And I think that technology, streaming, gambling, like all of these avenues provide the attachment or the connectivity to the product and give fans more ways to engage with the product. I think that's been a great advantage for us.
Yeah. The last question I want to ask, I'm curious because I think all of us who enjoy sport and entertainment, as a sports executive, I mean, you're managing so many demands, and I imagine you live sport. But what the hell else do you do for fun?
Outside of my family and outside of work, I do very, very little. I consume a lot of basketball. I consume as much time as I possibly can with my kids. I have tiny little kids. I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and 3-year-old twins. And they're involved in a lot, and I try to be there as much as I can for them. But to your point, I'm on my phone a lot. I'm in front of my computer a lot. One of the hardest things that I've discovered is, in addition to not really having any hobbies, unfortunately, is picking and choosing where to be present, picking and choosing where to provide some focus, because what I'm learning is that every spot I'm in, every conversation I'm having, there's an opportunity cost, and that opportunity cost is the lack of having a conversation with somebody else. So I've been choosing, and I'm a people pleaser at heart, and it's very hard to have the courage to attack one moment, but knowing that I'm forfeiting the opportunity to tackle a different moment or a different issue or a different person. And that's been hard. But I spend as much time at home as I can with my kids when I'm not at the office, not at basketball games. But I enjoy my work so much that I don't really need a hobby. I mean, I show up to work and it's not work. I get to be around pro sport.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, it doesn't get much better than that. Michael Winger, thank you so much, man.
Thank you for
joining
having me
for this conversation about the business of sports and entertainment. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.